You're not failing. You're simply underestimated for too long. The world isn't trying to trick you. It's testing you. And here is why your response, or lack thereof, defines everything. Observe. There are two types of men in this world, distinct as shadow and steel. The first type, when someone dares to disrespect him, reacts immediately, loudly. His very essence demands that everyone, every single soul within earshot, must know he will not be disrespected. He will argue, he will defend, he will fight. In his mind, every challenge must be met, every battle must be won, every insult returned with interest. His internal landscape is a constant battlefield, his energy scattered, his focus diffused across countless trivial engagements. He believes this constant readiness, this unyielding public display, projects strength, but in reality, it betrays a profound internal fragility. Every reaction costs him not just time and breath, but a piece of his precious mental and emotional capital. He becomes a predictable entity, a set of buttons waiting to be pushed, a puppet whose strings are pulled by the whims and provocations of others. His life is an exhausting series of defenses, draining him, leaving him with little left for the pursuits that genuinely matter. He's always operating from a deficit, constantly proving, constantly seeking validation, and in doing so, he never truly builds the deep, unshakable reserve of power that defines true formidable presence. This man is a captive of his own perceived need to be seen, to be acknowledged, to always be on the offensive, never realizing that the greatest offense is often found in disciplined silence. Then there is the second type. When someone disrespects him, something profoundly different happens. He doesn't explode. His gaze shifts, sharp and analytical, scanning the individual, the situation, the hidden currents beneath the surface. He calculates, not with anger, but with precision. And then he simply walks away. No grand exit, no dramatic explanation, no fiery defense, no engagement, no fight. That silence, that calculated withdrawal, it terrifies people, not because it implies weakness, quite the opposite. It terrifies them because they cannot read him. They don't know if he is retreating or if he is simply repositioning, preparing for a devastating countermove they cannot yet comprehend. They don't know if he deems them beneath his precious energy, an irrelevant fly in his strategic web, or if he is planning something far deeper, far more impactful, something they are entirely blind to. His absence becomes a potent force, more powerful, more memorable than any words he could have uttered. It leaves a void, an unresolved question mark that festers in the minds of those who provoked him. 5 centuries ago, 2 masters of strategy understood this profound truth at a level that still makes people profoundly uncomfortable, even today. Niccolo Machiavelli, observing princes dismantle their own power by foolishly engaging in battles that offered no strategic advantage, and Sun Tzu, teaching his generals that the supreme victory is the battle that is never fought. Today, I am going to unveil the most dangerous skill a man can possess. It is not how to win every fight. It is how to discern which fights are not yours to take, which battles are traps disguised as challenges, and how to elegantly, powerfully, strategically walk away. Number 1. The first rule of winning is knowing when not to play. Sun Tzu wrote in The Art of War, a line often misinterpreted. The supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting. Most people read that and immediately think of diplomacy, of negotiation, of finding a peaceful, amicable resolution. That is a naive interpretation, far from Sun Tzu's brutal, pragmatic genius. What Sun Tzu understood, what every great strategist throughout history has grasped, is that fighting itself is frequently the trap. The moment you commit to engagement, you have already bestowed a valuable asset upon your opponent. You have given them your time, your energy, your precious attention, and most critically, You have made yourself predictable. Consider this. When someone provokes you and you reflexively react, what crucial information have you just divulged? You've shown them the exact coordinates of your vulnerabilities. You've pointed to the button they can press anytime they desire a reaction, anytime they wish to control your emotional state. You have, effectively, given them power. But when you refuse to engage, when you simply, calmly, strategically walk away, you become dangerous precisely because you are unpredictable. They cannot control you, they cannot drain you. Your actions are no longer tethered to their provocations. This principle extends far beyond physical conflict. It's the essence of strategic patience in geopolitics. Nations often choose forms of engagement that are not direct military confrontation, such as economic sanctions, diplomatic isolation, or proxy support. These are calculated withdrawals from traditional combat, yet they are designed to subdue the enemy without fighting by altering their cost-benefit analysis. A strategic power understands that the deepest impact often comes not from brute force, but from the deliberate absence of expected engagement, forcing the adversary into a reactive, often self-defeating, stance. Sun Tzu extends this philosophy further, writing with chilling clarity. There are roads which must not be followed, armies which must not be attacked, towns which must not be besieged, positions which must not be contested. Listen closely to that and internalize it. He is not merely suggesting there are battles you might lose. He is declaring there are battles you should never fight, not because victory is impossible, but because the act of fighting itself, regardless of outcome, is the wrong move. The greatest generals in Chinese history secured their legendary campaigns not by winning every single skirmish, but by systematically avoiding the battles that did not align with or serve their ultimate, overarching objective. They grasped a profound truth that weak men will never comprehend. Every engagement, every conflict, every commitment bears a significant cost, even if you emerge victorious. This cost is not merely tangible, troops, resources, time, but also intangible, political capital, emotional bandwidth, the erosion of goodwill, and the creation of future enemies. Now, leap forward to Renaissance Italy. Niccolò Machiavelli observes the relentless political chaos of Florence with a detached, analytical eye. He sees powerful families tearing each other apart, leaders engaging in constant petty feuds, responding to every slight, every insult, every perceived challenge to their authority. And he discerns a critical, recurring pattern. The princes who felt compelled by ego to answer every single challenge, they exhausted themselves. They accumulated enemies on all sides, fighting so many insignificant skirmishes that when the true existential war inevitably arrived, they had nothing left. Their coffers were empty, their alliances shattered, their people weary. This constant reactive engagement made them brittle, not strong. Number 2. Your greatest resource isn't your strength, it's your reserves. In contrast, the princes who possessed the wisdom to know when to let things go, who understood that certain fights were simply not worth their precious energy, they conserved their power, they strategically chose their battles, and when they finally did choose to engage, they did so with overwhelming, decisive force, precisely because they had not wasted themselves, their resources, or their moral authority on meaningless conflicts. Machiavelli's most famous counsel, a prince must have no other objective, no other thought, nor take up any profession but that of war, is often misconstrued as an endorsement of constant aggression. But here is the critical point that many people miss. He is not advocating for incessant fighting. He is demanding constant, strategic thinking, and strategy, the highest form of it, very often dictates not fighting. The weak prince charges into every battle because his fragile ego demands immediate validation, a public display of his perceived strength. The strong prince, however, fights only the battles that truly matter, the ones that align with his grand strategy, because his strategic objective demands it. This, then, is the formidable skill, strategic withdrawal. It is the singular, defining characteristic that separates men who are genuinely formidable, whose presence commands respect, from men who are merely loud, whose bluster is a thin veneer over insecurity. This isn't about being passive or avoiding confrontation out of fear. It is about being intensely, ruthlessly precise in the application of your finite, powerful energy. Every moment, every ounce of focus you spend on a meaningless conflict is a moment, an ounce of focus you steal from building your empire, mastering your craft, or deepening your most valuable relationships. Number 3. Your ego isn't protecting you, it's enslaving you. Now, let's confront the uncomfortable truth of why most men will never master this formidable skill. It boils down to one fundamental, insidious thing: ego. A weak man's ego is a fragile construct, perpetually demanding constant validation, continuous defense, unending proof that he matters, that he is respected, that his existence holds weight. So, when someone disrespects him, his ego doesn't just perceive it as an insult, it interprets it as an existential threat to his very identity, his perceived standing in the world. And so, he feels an uncontrollable, psychological compulsion to respond, not because it is strategically advantageous, but because he is psychologically incapable of tolerating the idea of someone thinking less of him. Watch this dynamic play out anywhere, and you will see it in stark relief. Social media serves as the perfect, unfiltered laboratory for this phenomenon. Someone leaves a critical comment, a dismissive remark. A weak man will immediately spend the next hour or more crafting intricate responses, tirelessly defending himself, meticulously explaining his position, engaging in a futile argument with a nameless avatar, often with a profile picture of a cartoon character. Why? Because he needs that person, that faceless stranger who means absolutely nothing to his actual life, to understand him, to validate him, to acknowledge that he is right. And what has he accomplished? He has just ceded immense power to a nobody, allowing them to dictate how he spends his most valuable, finite resources: his time, his energy, his emotional equilibrium. This relentless pursuit of external validation, this inability to tolerate even the slightest perceived slight, makes him a pawn in every minor skirmish, perpetually reacting instead of strategically acting. His ego's insatiable hunger for affirmation transforms him into a predictable, easily manipulated target. A dangerous man, however, encounters the exact same critical comment, the same dismissive remark. Perhaps a faint, knowing smile plays on his lips. Perhaps he doesn't even bother to finish reading it. And then, without fanfare, he moves on. Not because he is avoiding conflict out of fear, but because he has performed a swift, dispassionate calculation. This person does not matter. This battle does not serve my higher purpose. My absence is my definitive answer, and here is the profound ripple effect that follows. The individual who left that comment, the provocateur, is now utterly bewildered. They anticipated a fight. They craved a reaction, a burst of emotion, a desperate defense. Instead, they received nothing but silence. Now, they are the ones consumed by thought, by uncertainty. They wonder why he didn't respond. They wonder if he even saw it. They wonder if their opinion, their very existence, mattered so little that he couldn't even be bothered to acknowledge them. His silence, devoid of anger, devoid of explanation, has just become infinitely more powerful than any argument, any tirade, could ever have been. This dynamic manifests in every arena of modern life, notably in the workplace. Weak men are habitually drawn into every office drama, every petty dispute, every political maneuver. They believe they are fighting for respect, for their standing, but in reality, they are merely exhausting themselves, proving to everyone that they can be easily baited, easily controlled. They become perceived as noisy, predictable, and ultimately irrelevant to the core mission. Number 4. The loudest voice isn't the most powerful, it's often the most desperate. Strong men, confronted with the same workplace drama, simply opt out, not with a public declaration of taking the high road, not with a self-righteous announcement. They just quietly, deliberately, don't participate. And suddenly, a different kind of speculation begins to swirl. People begin to wonder, why doesn't he care? What does he know that I don't? Is he truly above this pettiness? Is he planning something far greater? Relationships are even more revealing, laying bare the core of this strategic skill. A woman, consciously or unconsciously, tests a weak man. Perhaps she instigates a fight over an insignificant detail. Perhaps she strategically withdraws her attention, creating a deliberate void. Perhaps she even flirts with someone else, subtly or overtly, to elicit a reaction. And what is his predictable response? He reacts. He becomes emotional. He chases her attention, fighting desperately to prove he cares, to demonstrate his worth. And what has he just inadvertently proven? That she possesses the power to manipulate him, that he is controllable, that his emotional state is tethered to her whims, his heart on her puppet strings. He has given away his power. A dangerous man, in the exact same situation, goes quiet. He pulls back, not as a manipulative game, not as a tactic to punish, but as a genuine, dispassionate assessment. Is this person genuinely adding value to my life, or are they constantly subtracting from it? And if his rigorous assessment yields the answer of subtraction, he withdraws his attention, his presence, completely and unapologetically. Now, she is the one consumed by wonder, by uncertainty. She expected a fight. She expected him to chase, to beg for her attention. Instead, he just disappeared, a phantom of what was, and that profound, echoing absence hits harder, resonates deeper than any argument, any desperate plea ever could have. Here is the undeniable truth that weak men cannot or will not accept. You do not owe anyone a reaction. You do not owe anyone your precious energy. You do not owe anyone an explanation for why you are choosing not to engage. Your time and your attention are your most finite, most valuable resources. The moment you permit someone else to dictate how you spend them, particularly someone who does not deserve them, you have already lost. You have surrendered your most critical assets. Number 5. Humans crave closure. Your silence is their greatest torture. So, let us dissect precisely why strategic withdrawal, far from being a sign of weakness, is an active creator of immense power. First, understand this fundamental aspect of human psychology. We are wired to demand closure. We need to know where we stand. We need to comprehend why things happen, to connect the dots, to complete the narrative. And when we are denied that closure, our brains do not simply let it go. They go into overdrive, compulsively attempting to figure it out, to fill the void, to resolve the uncertainty. When you engage with someone, even in a fiery conflict, you are, paradoxically, granting them closure. You are giving them your attention, your reasoning, a window into your emotional state. They get to understand you, to map your reactions, to see your predictable patterns. And understanding, make no mistake, is the crucial first step toward control. But when you strategically withdraw without explanation, without a final word, without a dramatic exit, you have deliberately created a vacuum. And human psychology, like nature itself, abhors a vacuum. So what do they do in its unsettling presence? They fill it, not with objective reality, but with speculation, with anxiety, with an obsessive need to comprehend your motives, your absence. Let me illustrate with a stark example. Two men have a conflict, a direct confrontation. The first man fights back, argues, defends himself with passion and vigor. Eventually, the argument dissipates. The immediate tension deflates. Everyone moves on. The conflict has a resolution, however temporary. The second man, however, in the identical scenario, simply looks at his opponent. Perhaps he offers a slight, almost imperceptible nod, and then he walks away. No words, no discernible emotion, just gone. Which man do you believe the opponent is still thinking about 6 months later? The first man, through his engagement, provided closure. The conflict had a clear beginning, middle, and end. It is a closed file. It's done. The second man, through his silence and absence, created a persistent, unsettling question mark that never received an answer. Did I win? Did he not care at all? Is he planning something? Why didn't he fight back? What secret knowledge does he possess that I lack? That unresolved question mark, a phantom of confrontation, lives rent-free in the opponent's head, forever. This is the essence of what Machiavelli understood about the intricate dance of power. Machiavelli famously penned, "It is better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both." But here lies the deeper, more profound insight that often eludes superficial readers. Fear, true, potent fear, does not solely arise from brute strength or overt aggression. It originates from uncertainty. People inherently fear what they cannot predict, what they cannot fully understand, what they cannot control. Your willingness to engage in every skirmish, to react to every provocation, makes you predictable. It exposes your patterns, your weaknesses, your emotional triggers. Your strategic withdrawal, however, transforms you into a mystery. And mysteries, by their very nature, are dangerous. They command a different kind of respect, one born not of affection, but of potent unease. Sun Tzu, in a similar vein, stated, "All warfare is based on deception. Appear weak when you are strong, and strong when you are weak." Strategic withdrawal, in its masterful application, is the ultimate deception. On the surface, it might appear to be a retreat. It might look as though you are actively avoiding conflict, shying away from confrontation. But what you are actually accomplishing is a profound refusal to play their game, to operate by their rules, to exist within their imposed framework. You are, in essence, operating on an entirely different level, a higher plane of strategic thought that they are too unsophisticated to perceive. Think about the most genuinely powerful individuals you know, not the loudest ones, not the ones constantly embroiled in conflict or seeking the spotlight, but the truly formidable ones. How do they respond to disrespect, to challenge, to the petty provocations of others? They go quiet, they become unavailable, they strategically remove access to themselves, to their time, to their energy, to their influence. And that deliberate removal of access, that calculated withdrawal of their presence, their attention, their energy, it is absolutely devastating to those who relied upon it, or worse, sought to exploit it. Because here is the unspoken secret, the profound truth that underlies this entire philosophy. Your presence, your engagement, your very attention is only truly valuable if you are demonstrably willing to withdraw it. If you are perpetually available, if you are always engaging, always reacting, always at the beck and call of every minor provocation, then your presence, your attention, your very being quickly becomes devalued. It is taken for granted. It is seen as cheap, guaranteed, abundant. But a man who possesses the discipline to disappear, a man who can calmly, confidently walk away from conflict, from drama, from people who do not genuinely serve his higher purpose, his presence becomes rare. It becomes immensely valuable, deeply sought after, and crucially, when he does finally choose to engage, people pay rapt attention. They listen, they internalize, because they know, without a shadow of a doubt, that he does not waste his precious energy on things that lack genuine importance. This is precisely why strategic withdrawal evokes such visceral fear in people, because it forces them to confront a terrifying realization they desperately wish to avoid. They might not matter to you as much as they arrogantly believed they did. And that profound realization, that they cannot manipulate you, cannot control you, cannot even reliably elicit a reaction from you, it is devastating to their ego. Your silence, your absence, becomes a stark, unyielding mirror that reflects their own insignificance, their own powerlessness to sway you. Now, let's move from philosophy to the tactical. Strategic withdrawal does not imply you never fight. It means you fight with surgical precision. You engage when it unequivocally serves your purpose, your grand strategy. You withdraw when engagement would unequivocally cost you more than it is worth, draining your resources without adequate return. So, how do you discern the difference? Sun Tzu, ever the master, provides us with the timeless framework. He speaks of 5 critical factors you must meticulously assess before any engagement: the way, the weather, the terrain, the leadership, and discipline. Translated into the complex landscape of modern life, you are asking. Number 6. Don't just react. Calculate. First, what is the actual objective here? Not the superficial conflict, but what is truly at stake. If someone hurls an insult at you on social media, what is genuinely at stake? Your ego. That is all. Nothing real, nothing that affects your actual life, your income, your meaningful relationships. Therefore, you withdraw. But if someone is actively fabricating lies, attempting to damage your professional reputation among people who can directly impact your career, now there is something tangible and real at stake. In this scenario, precise, targeted engagement might be absolutely necessary. Second, what are the conditions? Do you possess the high ground? Machiavelli was obsessed with this principle. Never engage on your enemy's chosen terrain, under their preferred conditions, using their weapons, or with their audience. If someone is attempting to drag you into a public argument on their platform, with their audience, within their rhetorical framework, you withdraw. You do not win by playing their rigged game. You win by refusing to play, by forcing them onto your terms, or by making their game irrelevant. Third, what is the precise cost of engagement versus the cost of withdrawal? Every single fight exacts a price. Your finite time, your precious energy, your emotional bandwidth, sometimes your reputation, your peace of mind. Is what you stand to gain from this specific fight genuinely worth more than what you will inevitably spend? If not, you withdraw. Fourth, are you emotionally compromised? If you feel a surge of anger, a sting of hurt, if you are fundamentally reactive in this moment, you withdraw. Always. Because decisions forged in the crucible of raw emotion are almost invariably flawed, leading to regrettable outcomes. Strategic withdrawal provides you with invaluable time to cool off, to think with crystalline clarity, to dispassionately decide if this situation is even worth revisiting, or if it simply dissipates into the ether of irrelevance. Here is a profound truth that will save you years of wasted energy and needless suffering. 90% of conflicts that feel urgent, overwhelming, and absolutely critical in the moment are completely and utterly irrelevant a mere week later. That argument you almost had, it doesn't matter. That disrespect you almost responded to with furious indignation, nobody remembers it. That battle you almost fought to its bitter end, it wouldn't have changed a single damn thing. Strategic withdrawal is the deliberate act of granting yourself the space and time to allow the artificial urgency to fade, so you can see the truth with absolute clarity. Now, when do you engage? You engage only when the stakes are undeniably real, tangible, and significant. You engage only when the conditions overwhelmingly favor you, giving you a decisive advantage. You engage when something truly vital you are painstakingly building is genuinely threatened and inaction would lead to irretrievable loss. You engage when someone has unmistakably crossed a line, a core boundary, that if left unchallenged, will inevitably invite further, more brazen violations. You engage when you possess the upper hand and can end it decisively, with surgical precision and minimal collateral damage to your overall objectives. Notice the critical distinction. Weak men engage reflexively, driven by the volatile tides of ego and emotion. Strong men engage strategically, guided by cold, hard calculation, assessing costs, benefits, and long-term implications. Let me offer a concrete example from the modern world. A man is meticulously building a thriving business. A competitor, through malice or desperation, begins spreading damaging lies about him, attempting to undermine his credibility. The first, instinctive urge for most men would be to fight back publicly, to issue immediate rebuttals, to defend himself fiercely, to set the record straight. But a strategic man pauses. He asks, "Will my public response merely grant this competitor more attention than they deserve? Will I appear defensive, weak, or desperate? Will I be inadvertently giving my competitor exactly what they crave? My attention, my valuable audience, a platform for their falsehoods?" Perhaps the most strategic move is to say nothing publicly, allowing his undeniable work, his reputation, and his product to speak for themselves. Perhaps it is to address it quietly, discreetly, with the key stakeholders and clients who truly matter. Perhaps it is to meticulously document every falsehood and prepare for decisive legal action if and when it becomes necessary and serves his strategic objective. Perhaps it is to simply allow his competitor to exhaust themselves in their futile mudslinging, while he, in the silence, continues to build, to innovate, to grow. The critical point is this: he is choosing. He is not reacting. He is calculating. And sometimes, the most powerful, most devastating calculation is to make no visible move at all. As Sun Tzu so eloquently put it, to win 100 victories in 100 battles is not the acme of skill. To subdue the enemy without fighting is the acme of skill. Your cultivated ability to walk away from fights you simply do not need to have is the absolute highest form of strategic thinking, a testament to profound self-mastery. Number 7. This isn't a passive retreat. It's an active ascent. So, how do you forge this skill? Because it is a skill, a muscle that must be rigorously trained. It is not natural. Your ego, that primal beast, will fight you, fiercely, every single step of the way. Level 1. Train yourself to pause when provocation strikes. When conflict arises, when you feel that intense, primal urge to immediately react, stop. Don't move. Count to 10. Take a slow, deliberate breath, and ask yourself one profound question. Does this truly matter tomorrow? Not, am I right? Not, should I defend myself? But, will this actually impact my life, my goals, my peace, in 24 hours? Most of the time, the answer, when stripped of emotion, is a resounding no. And that pause, that solitary moment of self-control, that is where your nascent power resides. That is the moment you consciously choose strategy over the deafening demands of ego. Level 2. Practice small withdrawals. Don't leap into the grand gestures immediately. Start small, inconsequential. Someone posts something overtly stupid in a group chat. Don't respond. Someone attempts to bait you into a pointless argument online. Scroll past without a second glance. A colleague at work tries to drag you into their petty drama. Offer a calm, polite smile and simply state, "I'm staying out of this one." Each time you successfully withdraw from something that holds no genuine meaning, you are diligently building the muscle of detachment. You are training yourself that your attention is a precious currency, and not everyone, not every situation, deserves it. Level 3. Master the art of disappearing. This is where your power truly begins to crystallize. When confronted with a toxic, draining, or overtly manipulative individual, you do not engage in a drawn-out, emotional conversation about their behavior. You do not explain yourself, offering them the closure they crave. You simply become less available, slowly, subtly, quietly, until one day they abruptly realize, you're gone. No drama, no public announcement, no burning bridges with a grand show, just strategic distance. And here's the inevitable reaction. They will notice. They will reach out. They will text. They will call. They will ask what's wrong. This is the critical juncture, because your old instinct, the ego's pull, will be to explain, to have the conversation, to offer them the understanding they seek. Don't, because explaining is engaging, and engaging with people who have consistently proven they do not deserve your energy is the ultimate trap. Instead, keep it simple. Just been busy, taking care of some things. True enough that it's not a lie, yet revealing absolutely nothing. And then, you stay disappeared. Level 4. Learn to be profoundly comfortable with their discomfort. This is, without a doubt, the most challenging aspect, because when you withdraw, people will become intensely uncomfortable. Their own anxieties will surface. They will label you cold. They will accuse you of running away. They will attempt to shame you, claiming you're afraid to engage. They will try every manipulative tactic in their arsenal to provoke you back into the fight, back into their sphere of influence. And you, the strategic man, must be utterly, unshakably okay with that. You must be profoundly comfortable allowing them to experience their discomfort, allowing them to think whatever they desperately need to think, allowing them to fill your silence with their own distorted narratives. Because the very moment you explain yourself, the instant you defend your decision to withdraw, you have re-engaged, and you have lost. Your withdrawal is potent only if it is complete, if it is final. If you remain unmoved, an unyielding monolith, by their desperate attempts to pull you back into their petty arena. Machiavelli would tell you, with cold logic, they can call you whatever they wish. As long as they cannot control you, you win. Level 5. Strategic re-engagement. This is the advanced move, reserved for the truly masterful. Sometimes, you withdraw not permanently, but strategically. You disappear to deliberately create space, to fundamentally shift the power dynamic, to allow them to profoundly realize the immense value of what they lose when you are not there. And then, when the conditions are impeccably right, when they have had ample time to feel your absence, when the power dynamic has decisively shifted in your favor, you return, not on their terms, but on yours. With your boundaries immaculately clear. This is the move that shatters people because they believed you were gone. They thought they had won. And then you re-emerge, but different, more distant, less invested. And now they are the ones desperately scrambling, attempting to regain what they had, a ghost of a connection. But you will never give it back in the same form because you have internalized the most critical lesson of all. Your presence is a gift, not a guarantee. Let me paint you two final, contrasting pictures. The first, a man who fights every battle. He is perpetually embroiled in conflict, constantly defending himself, endlessly explaining, continuously engaging with people and issues that hold no genuine significance. He believes he is strong because he never backs down. But look closely at him. He is exhausted. His energy is scattered across 100 trivial fronts. He is always reacting, never truly acting. He has unwittingly surrendered control of his own life to everyone who knows how to push his buttons, to every fleeting provocation. He is a puppet, dancing to 1,000 different, tiny tunes. The second picture, a man who meticulously chooses his battles, who possesses the profound wisdom to know precisely when to engage and when to calmly, powerfully walk away, who can endure disrespect and remain utterly unmoved, who can observe conflict swirling around him and deliberately, without fanfare, choose not to participate. He is calm, he is focused, his energy is conserved, a potent, concentrated force, reserved exclusively for the things and the people that genuinely matter, for his grand strategy. And people are terrified of him, not because he fights, but because he doesn't need to. Which man do you choose to be? Because here is the undeniable truth that Machiavelli and Sun Tzu, in their brutal brilliance, understood. Power isn't about winning every single battle. Power is about fighting only the battles that matter, on terrain that irrevocably favors you, when conditions are unequivocally right. Everything else? You walk away, and that walking away, that strategic withdrawal, that profound refusal to engage, that comfortable, unyielding silence in the face of provocation, that, fundamentally, is what separates dangerous men from desperate ones. The desperate man needs every battle because he needs constant, external validation that he matters, that his existence holds weight. The dangerous man walks away from most battles because he already knows, deep in his bones, that he matters. And he is not going to waste his finite, precious energy proving it to people whose opinions hold absolutely no bearing on his life, his legacy, or his purpose. So, here is your assignment for the next 7 days. Practice this diligently. When someone attempts to bait you, do not take the hook. When drama erupts around you, do not participate. When you feel that visceral urge to defend yourself, to explain, to react, pause. Ask yourself, does this truly matter? Does this person genuinely deserve my energy? Does this battle, if engaged, truly serve my ultimate objective? And if the answer is unequivocally no, then walk away, silently, completely, without a single explanation. Watch what unfolds. Watch how it feels to conserve your immense energy instead of needlessly scattering it to the winds. Watch how people's perception of you irrevocably shifts when you cease to be predictable, when you become an enigma wrapped in an iron will. Watch how profoundly powerful silence can be when you wield it strategically. Because Machiavelli was right, it is better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both. And Sun Tzu was right. The supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting. Put these two timeless truths together, and you arrive at this. The most dangerous thing you can do is to master the art of strategic withdrawal, not because you are weak, but because you are so undeniably strong, so profoundly self-possessed, that you do not need to prove it to every single person who dares to question it. While weak men fight every battle, exhausting themselves into predictable irrelevance, you will be the man who walks away from what does not serve him, and that, in its quiet power, terrifies people, because they cannot control you, they cannot predict you, they cannot drain you. Your silence becomes your power, your absence becomes your weapon, your discipline becomes your unshakable shield. That is the silent skill. That is what Machiavelli and Sun Tzu knew, and now you know it too. The question is, do you have the strength to truly walk away?